Welcome back to this special edition of Hannity. Yesterday, Sean spoke with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Just one day after an international criminal court prosecutor requested a warrant for Bibi's arrest over alleged war crimes. Take a look.
All right, joining us now is Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Mr. Prime Minister, always great to have you. Well, I wish under better circumstances. So I'm watching this illegitimate, court, the ICC, and this indictment of you, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm sort of comparing it to 9/11 in our country. And we lost 2,977 Americans. Now, based on the population size of Israel, and I've been there many times, it would be the equivalent of what happened October 7th to losing 40,000 Americans in a single day. Why you, as the Prime Minister of your country, defending yourself against these radical Islamists attacking and killing your people and kidnapping your people, and and somehow everything's so upside down that you're the problem, and there's a moral equivalency with Israel defending itself and radical terrorists?
Well, it's outrageous. I think President Biden said that, and Republicans and Democrats have rallied around this, the effort to fight this absurdity. I mean, this is a rogue prosecutor who's gone amok. He's out to demonize the one and only Jewish state and the only democracy in the Middle East. And it's both false and dangerous. False because, first of all, he's creating a false symmetry, as you said, between the democratically elected leaders of Israel and the terrorist tyrants of Hamas. And that's exactly like saying, well, I'm going to issue arrest warrants for President George W. Bush, but also bin Laden. Or in World War II, I'm going to issue arrest warrants for Churchill and FDR, but also for Hitler. Thanks a lot. It's a false symmetry. It's a despicable symmetry. And of course, this prosecutor never goes after the tyrants of Tehran or the butchers of Syria or what is happening in Yemen, the killers of Yemen or anywhere else, or North Korea, anywhere else. He's going after us because he's out to demonize Israel and really fan the flames of anti-Semitism. The second thing is the charges are false. He's accusing us of deliberate starvation. What a pack of lies. I mean, we put in 20,000 trucks, 500,000 tons of food and medicine. The price of food in Gaza has plummeted. Because markets don't lie. We've got people receive about 3,000 calories per day compared to the 2,000 that's required. It's a bunch of baloney. And yet, if you repeat a lie often enough, and if you have slanted UN organizations dominated by Hamas and its killers to give you these informations, it's completely false. So I think he didn't even bother to investigate. I don't know if you know that. He just received these false, contentious and misleading charges and took them as face value and then slammed this on Israel. So it's false, but let me tell you why it's dangerous. Because, Sean, Israel is first, but America is next, and all democracies are next. Because if this is allowed to, if Israel is bullied into not stopping these terrorists and getting rid of these terrorists, then all democracies will be imperiled. And it's also dangerous because he's pouring gasoline on the fires of anti-Semitism that are raging on U.S. campuses and around the world because people think this is a serious organization, the ICC. It'll take time for them to know what a farce it is. And so he's really stoking the fires of Jew hatred around the world, and it never stops with Jew hatred. It inflames entire societies. You see that on the campuses of the United States.
Well, with President Trump, he withdrew from this. President Biden went back into it. I know he condemned it. However, the fact that I think America should pull out again as a result of this. I think every Western country should pull out and have no association with it, which brings up the broader question, and I've said this for years, that look at the UN, for example. They have historically been anti-Semitic and anti-American. Why are we funding with U.S. tax dollars the majority of funds for the UN? What about the WHO? They lied to the world about COVID. Why the WEF? Why the Paris Climate Accords that grant the status of developing nations to China and India? How do any of these globalist organizations make any sense? This one is probably the worst of all of them.
Well, it's certainly going down that route. You know, people used to take the General Assembly of the UN seriously. Well, it passed more resolutions against Israel than I think all the other countries combined. The so-called Human Rights Council of the UN, also taken seriously, and then people saw that it passed more resolutions on Israel than all the rest of the world combined, including North Korea, Iran, Yemen, Syria, you name it. So obviously they lost all their legitimacy. And this rogue prosecutor with his false symmetries and his false charges is doing exactly the same to the world, to this ICC. And it remains to be seen whether the judges will go down that route too. They might, and then it'll become a kangaroo court for all the world to see. So I think that's, if he wants to put a stain on Israel, he's putting a stain on himself. And I'm very glad now that in the U.S. Congress there's a very strong effort, which is bipartisan, and I hope it continues to conclusion. I'm sure it will, to put sanctions on anyone who does this in the ICC. I think it's the least that should be done, and I expect it to have a lasting effect. I think it's important. I'm very glad to see a lot of countries, a lot of serious leaders have stood up and said this is absurd. We can't accept this.
Well, this would be the same as George W. Bush after 9/11 being indicted the same way you were. Listen, the only people Israel is guilty of willfully killing are terrorists, the people that started the war. So let's be very clear. Let me ask you another question and move on to a different topic. And I know Israel said they had no part to play at all in the helicopter crash of the Iranian president, better known, by the way, as the Butcher of Tehran. And what bothers me, though, is the Biden State Department sent Iran condolences. The UN held a moment of silence. Now, the #1 state sponsor of terror, Mr. Prime Minister, the last time I checked, was the Islamic Republic, Iran. They helped plan and plot and scheme and provide weaponry for the October 7th attacks against your country. They're providing Hezbollah in the north and Lebanon with weapons to fire into your country. They are arming the Houthi rebels, also firing weapons and rockets into your country. And why would anybody offer condolences to the death of one of the worst terrorists in world history? Can you explain that? Because I'm not that happy that my country did that.
Well, you'll have to ask the administration that question, but I'll tell you who I offer condolences to. I offer condolences to the people of Iran who've been terrorized and subjugated by these theocratic thugs for half a century. I mean, they've killed them on the sidewalks. They don't let them raise their voice. They promote terrorism around the world, but they also do horrible things to their own people. So I offer my condolences to the Iranian people, and I hope they get rid of this tyranny as soon as they can. I think that that's been my position all along, and I think that's the right position.